Drink it in, man.
Oh, Darius! How big are you, young man? How big are you?
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Kool-Aid, what is going on, everybody? We are back. Guess who's on the other end of the line, everybody? Grifka, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing okay. About what, 3 weeks out from the real deal. So, getting started.
I think it's less than. I think it's like 2.5 and less. Yeah. I mean, it is coming before you know it.
Yeah, pretty excited.
Well, I'm glad you're excited about that because we have some things to talk about today that aren't so exciting, and that will be we're going to recap that game we saw last week in the preseason. But before we get to that, I just want to do, again, kind of hit some of our news and notes here. So a couple days ago, good old Corny Wash, this defensive tackle, Cornelius Washington, that we spent some pretty good dough on not even a year or so ago, got the boot. So any thoughts on that, Grifka, or have they been shaking it up? Bobby Quinn's been busy. We've added a few players here or there. Any thoughts and takes on any of that kind of stuff?
It's one of those things I guess I wasn't really surprised when it went down. I mean, I was reading a lot of things. Even before training camp started, they were talking about guys who could possibly either be cut or traded, before the season started. And Cornelius Washington always came up. The biggest thing was, does he fit the defensive scheme? And I wasn't for sure. I always thought the guy was a pretty decent defensive end. He could, get after the quarterback. He could be one of those guys on, those third and long plays, like when a lot of teams are starting to switch to that defensive front of 4 defensive ends for their quickness to get to the quarterback. He could dump down inside and play down there. But obviously Matt Pat and the rest of the team, or the rest of the upper management thought he just wasn't going to fit the scheme. I mean, one of the headlines I read is the Lions saved $2.7 million or something like that with cutting him or releasing him. And people are like, oh, they're a bunch of cheapskates. It's just I'm sure they they put some feelers out there seeing if anybody wanted him other than, just to release a guy. But, I guess I wasn't all that surprised, but one of those things, I mean, like I said, I thought he was a decent defensive end and could get after the quarterback. And, we can talk about it, when we talk about the game. I mean, it just seems like that pass rush isn't that strong and they could have used them. But I don't know, maybe they're just holding back and they have some other aces up their sleeve, to get to their quarterback. But, I mean, I wasn't really surprised. I was more like, okay, that's one less guy who's going to have to get to the quarterback and maybe they have something else in mind.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I was going to bring up the biggest thing. We did our whole series on dollars and cents where we kind of broke down the contracts and whatnot. And I remember when they gave Corny Wash his deal, I was kind of like, really? That for that guy? But I remember talking to the Big Hughes and telling him, hey, I started reading up on this guy, and he's got kind of this crazy athleticism, real kind of a big build, that bigger type defensive line player that we were going for at the time. And I thought he had some upside, but this guy just never made plays, never seemed to fit in. And what'd you say? I think it was the 2 I got it pulled up right here, 2.62 mil in cap savings. To me, with the little bit extra too that we've been holding in the piggy bank there, that could come in handy depending on who gets cut here at the end of camp or after this third game. You see a lot of cuts that are sometimes surprising. So I think, they might be able to use that well, or they finally just decided, hey, man, this guy both doesn't fit in and he's not a hard enough worker and he doesn't make plays. So get him out of here. So not too much more to say on that. But Grifka, right here, I just kind of pulled it up. Like I said, there have been some transactions. So I'll just go through them in order. They signed Marcus Cromartie, cornerback. They signed they got rid of McClure, who was a safety. They cut Corny Wash, defensive end, and he was a defensive tackle. And they signed Dexter McDougal, who's a cornerback, and waived Davis, another backup safety, and they signed Sterling Moore, cornerback. So I know, for all those people who are listening, a lot of those names don't mean much. They probably don't even mean much to me or you, but to me, the topic I want to bring up with that is I did hear some more rumblings, at least I want to say Moore and I believe McDougal, it was either McDougal or Cromartie, one of the two had some Patriots ties, again, or had played in this type of scheme. So we know how that goes. But the big question I want to ask is, so Moore, McDougal, and Cromartie are all either cornerbacks or safeties. Like, to me, we've already talked about that's like our highest position, like, of quality and depth. Like, it's always so weird to me how they kind of construct an NFL roster that Bob Quinn, if he's going to add people, would cut a defensive lineman where we have nobody and would go add cornerbacks and safeties who we seem to have plenty of. I don't get it, except for special teams.
Like you said, I mean, there was a couple of guys that had the Patriots ties, and like we had talked about it earlier with Tease Tabor. Maybe they're just not happy with his progression. They need something more of a established veteran to go back there in the defensive backfield. And same, like you said, one of those guys, I can't remember which one's the safety, but either they're just not happy with, or they're going to let Tracy Walker, like wade into the shallow end of the pool a little more than just throwing him in the deep end. And they're looking, for a little something. Maybe they're just not happy with the way, the running backs are just blowing by Tavon Wilson and Glover Quinn.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, but
I don't see any of these guys like making any kind of dent like that.
Exactly.
But I don't understand, like, why are we not like getting rid of Corny Walsh and going out and getting like a more impactful player or replacing him with a better guy on the D line? Like, I know there's not studs out there, but if you don't think Washington's any good, then go replace him with another body there rather than just a camp body / he's a good special teams gunner. Like, I'm sick of that. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't get it. But like I say, we don't have to spend a bunch of time on it. But none of those guys to me that we picked up, other than I think I've heard of like Sterling Moore and like say if he has some Patriots ties, another cornerback can never kill you. But I don't see any of these guys like pushing tees down the depth chart or making this team. So again, just roster moves for roster moves.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. If any of those guys are touching the field, as a starter, our defensive backfield's really, really hurting.
Yeah, right here I'm looking at it. McDougal, the cornerback, is the only one that has some terms. 1 year, $700K, which, I mean, again, that's not even like the 500 or less that we were talking about before. So maybe they do need an extra corner, and they're trying to figure that out between these 2 or 3 guys. But I don't know. Like you say, Bobby Quinn working the roster. But other than that, I mean, they're just kind of working their way through camp and whatnot. I want to tell a quick story. So we went down with a buddy of mine. He's actually he's my stepsister's husband, and they live in London, England. So he's come here the last couple of years, and I always take him to like the Lions games, or we go down and kind of show him. Even took his daughter to a game last year. She loved going down there. That was super fun. So this year, like, couldn't make it to the game, but I was like, hey, maybe we could go down to practice or whatever. So we go down and we go to that open practice with the Giants right before the preseason game. And I had heard like it was going to be a walkthrough. And like as we got in the car to head down there, the weather was terrible. It was like looking like it was going to pour, which it did. And I'm like, man, this is a long drive, a long time for, what I knew was going to kind of be a lackluster practice. Krivka, this was the worst. I mean, the most meaningless practice of NFL football I've ever seen, especially with another team in there. They literally, we got there and the weather had cleared up at that point. They ran maybe like they ran some special team sessions at like half speed. Then they ran like offense for each team at maybe a quarter speed for, I didn't even know, it seemed like 10 minutes. And all of a sudden they like huddled up in the middle. I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do now. Over. Practice over. It was like the most ridiculous thing. But the best part was, since they didn't do anything, and because there wasn't many people there, like every big name player came over and hung out. So I said what up to JD, our middle linebacker, defensive captain, got his autograph, was hanging out with my boy GQ, Glover Quinn. Jamie, who's like I said, my stepsister's husband, he got a whole bunch of pictures with a bunch of players, and I was yakking at Miles Killebrew, telling him he had like cut all his hair off. I'm like, man, they move you to linebacker? They just cut your hair or what? They got you all trimmed up so you can come off the edge? And he was like, man, we got got a scout out there. We got to watch out for you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm all over your scouting report." So we had a bunch of fun down there as far as like after practice. But I gotta tell you, I've never seen anything so terrible as far as if that's NFL walkthroughs, what a waste. It just seemed like, I don't know what the coaches, again, I'm not an NFL coach. I'm sure they're getting looks. They're kind of working their way through things, but it was completely meaningless from what I could see.
Yeah, but did they have donuts? I guess that's all that matters. Did they have donuts for you?
There was no donuts, which, like, I was real bummed about, but, like, considering it almost put us both on the floor when we went there the first game, it was probably a good thing. But had they had a couple with the Honolulu blue frosting, I know I would have slammed a couple, no doubt.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time and actually got some autographs on your leather and white football there, to go with your autograph football that has everybody's name on, from, Glover Quinn to, I don't know, Joey Harrington to Kevin Smith. And
Griff, I always tell you, don't lie to the people, man. I come with the gear, and then, yeah, you weren't there, and I had to write you and say, "Hey, Griffco, it's like Bizarro Land. Every time we go, when it's season ticket holders only, they send over the backup special teams gunner to sign a few autographs, and no one else. Here, all the top guys, even Stafford was like on the other side of the field signing autographs, but." You would be proud. I'll have to show it to you. I had the Detroit Kool-Aid banner out for the first time ever that will be at the tailgate, and got that inked up. So anybody that comes and sees us at the tailgate, Jared Davis right on the banner along with Glover Quinn. I showed it to Glover Quinn, and I tried to get him to sign above his picture that I put on there. Yeah. I said, man, who's this guy right here? He goes, "You know who that is?" And he signed it. He signed it right on his actual self. Like, he made sure he totally autographed himself from head to toe. So that's on there. Nice Sharpie too. So yeah, I tried to get the two studs, two of our defensive stalwarts on there. But yeah, the Kool-Aid banner was out and shining, and got some glove. When Jared Davis was signing it, I go, JD, man, like, keep up the great work. We love having you in the middle of our defense. And he was just signing, and I go, "Hey man, we got a Lions podcast, Detroit Kool-Aid. We always talk you up." And he was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That's real good. Keep it up. We appreciate you." And I left, and then I go, "Oh, I hope he doesn't listen to last episode where we kind of ragged on him a little bit." He might
Screw
come
these
at me
guys,
next time.
man. Forget these guys.
Yeah, that Detroit Kool-Aid, unsubscribe. But no,
that's awesome.
No, he couldn't have been better, man. It was really fun, and like even got by like the giant buses, and Saquon, Odell were kind of over there loading up, so got some good access, which was cool. But yeah, the practice was absolute waste. So
that's cool.
Anyway, Grifka, we've probably talked too much here in the beginning. The people want to know, what the heck did you think about that game at Ford Field, the home opener against the Giants? And let me put the caveat out there, which everybody does. It was preseason. What the heck did you think of that game?
Well, I have a question for you first, Eric. I'm just
good.
wondering, did Odell Beckham did he give you a rose? I'm just wondering, did he give you a rose? Did he choose you? Were you one of? Because your man love for him last episode was so scary. I mean, I swore it was like an episode of The Bachelor. You were all like, "Oh, if Odell picks me, I'm going to be his biggest fan. I think he's awesome. I'm really going to become a Giants fan because Odell Beckham, he's the greatest." But he didn't play, so I thought maybe you guys were out on a date or something. That's all I was wondering, if he maybe took you like Ruth Chris or something like that. You guys got some steak and shared some sweet potatoes. I don't know. But your man love for Odell Beckham last episode was just scary. So
yeah, hey, no roses were given, but had I had one, I mean, this as I said it in the predictions. This is my guy. I have him in almost every fantasy league. He's the most electric player in football that I've seen in the past decade plus. All he does is make plays. You're over here acting like he's made one catch. He's broken every record. And I think he has every record for a third, fourth-year guy in the NFL. So why would I not like this guy? He's a dynamic talent at a high-end position, makes plays, and he's got crazy. He's got crazy.
I'm going to cut you off here.
You gotta love him.
I'm going to cut you off here before we start from Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid to like the Big Blue Kool-Aid, whatever the heck it's called. You start some giant podcast or something like that.
You
So
brought it up, man.
talk
I'm
about
just
the
telling
game.
you, he's incredible. So yeah, go to it. You
Like I said,
lucky 13.
Go light a voting for him in the corner of your room around the velvet ropes and the big picture of him with his dyed blonde hair. But anyways, talk about the game.
Tell me when you can evaluate talent, Grifka, and then tell me about some good players, and I'll let you know, because Odell's top of the. I wish he was on the Lions. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Anyways, back to the game. For as bad as the run defense looked the first week, it looked that much better in the second week. But the pass defense was just terrible. They made what was that guy's name? Like Davis Webb. I mean, they made that guy look like Tom Brady. I mean, that guy was dropping dimes on everybody in spots. I mean, there was plays where it was like, 3rd and 18, and he's completing a 22-yard pass over Nevin Lawson or whatever. It's just like the defense just could not get off the field. I mean, there was zero pass rush. I mean, yeah, there was a couple good run play defense stops, early on, but I mean, they were just picking this team apart defensively with the pass. I mean, they made those quarterbacks on the Giants just like all pro, and that really worried me. And then the offensive line, once again, I mean, I realized Joe Dahl did not start this week, and I know he's your boy and all, but was it Kenny Wiggins started, and he spent more time in the backfield than a running back did. I mean, that guy got pushed around a lot. And then Joe Dahl came in, and he looked just as good as he did the first week. He got pushed around a lot, and Ricky Wagner, he played his turnstile. They were out at right tackle a couple times, and even Taylor Decker, got beat on a few plays. I know a couple times, that was reading stuff that maybe he thought he was going to get maybe a little a chip from Frank Ragnow, and maybe it's just a miscommunication. But that offensive line as a whole just did not look good. And I just keep reading up that, TJ Lang's, taking it, day by day. But it's just like, this guy's not getting any snaps with the rest of the team in game action. So I don't know how they're going to look. Stafford was on the ground a bunch. I mean, the Giants defense was in the Lions backfield, all game. And I know, was it the second running play of the game? Amir Abdullah, went to take the handoff and realized there was like two giant defenders in front of him. So he decided not to take the handoff and just threw the ball on the ground. But that was a pretty unimpressive game for being preseason. And I'm kind of glad, Ricky Jean-Francois, kind of got on the team afterwards, saying, they can't have that. They got to improve. And I'm glad somebody, even though he's new, took the leadership role and said they have to improve, big time, if they're going to compete with anybody else in that NFC North. But like you said, you gave the caveat. It was only preseason, so we shouldn't be going, looking to jump off a bridge or anything, or looking to fire Matt Patricia. But this team, the offense did not look good, and it was the same offensive coordinators last year, and that defense still looks like it needs an awful lot of work.
Grifka, 91, 1,312, 96, 1,450, and 13, and 101, 13, 67, and 10. You know what those numbers are?
I have an idea, but go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, that's Odell's first 3 years in the
league.
league.
You need to get off that and talk about the game. It's enough Odell talk.
Grifka, we're going to talk about the game, but I want to take us back for a second. Let's go back in the travel machine to that draft. And I did not want Odell Beckham in that draft. Tell the people what you said before the pick was turned in there for the Lions, or what you emailed me days before.
I don't want that tight end from North Carolina.
Right. And then I think we were having you turn in your picks that year. So you would have taken Darqueze Dennard that year. I think I still have it right here in front of me. And I wanted Aaron Donald badly, but I knew they wouldn't play him at defensive end. And I guess Mayhew wanted Odell, and we take Eric Ebron. So anyway, enough of that. But I think you would take those stats I just read off versus your boy Eric Ebron. Anyway, moving on to...
I would take a loaf of bread over Eric Ebron. Okay, so yeah, exactly. That's not hard to say.
Exactly, but don't hate on these top players when look at what we got instead. So in my review of this Giants football game, I have in big capital letters here. Basically, the only note I wrote about the game was a quote by a famous wise man. You want to hear it, Grifka?
Yeah, I'm interested in famous wise men.
The famous wise man this quote comes from is still with us, Grifka. He's a prominent figure today. And his name is Sir Charles Barkley. And the quote is, "Terrible. Absolutely terrible," is what I thought the Lions looked like in this preseason game. They were so garbage from top to bottom. I have also written down here, Stafford hit way too much. Like, this guy was only in for probably, what do you have, like 5 dropbacks, was hit 4 times. He had maybe 2 completions. The ball to Theo was electric. It almost got me off my chair where I was like, oh man, look at Stafford's in there. He caught Theo on an option route. Here we go. And then all I remember after that is one out route to Marvin for about 8 yards, and then a bunch of garbage in between. Getting our quarterback hit, almost got his shoulder ripped off. Defense was terrible. We're getting eaten up by Wayne Gallman, your boy, and a whole bunch of other people just all over the field, like making these little ridiculous plays. I don't know, man. Like I took nothing good away from it. Jared Davis in coverage to me again was like another. It keeps coming up. Like I keep saying, oh, he'll get it. It's gonna be okay, and I see him getting eat up by these running backs. Like Spielman told him, you got to give him a one-way go, but he always just gets flat-footed, and they just torch him in the middle there. I don't know what's going on, but we got to get that fixed.
It's almost like Davis almost like over pursues the pass route. He's almost expecting it to be like, it's just like, okay, I'm going to follow this guy, and he's not expecting a cutback or a move inside or a move outside. Right. He's just like, the guy's here, and he's just running right at him, and then the guy makes moves, and the guy's wide open.
And Jared Davis has the speed. Jared Davis, if you're listening, by the way, you've got the speed to be able to like cover sideline to sideline. You're a ferocious tackler. We saw that in the first couple plays of the game when you got in the backfield. But yeah, like you said, kind of let these routes come to you, or just rely on your speed and be able to stay with these guys. Other than that, just no pressure from the D line. I don't feel like we've had I can't remember the last sack or explosive play we've had from a D lineman, strip sack, fumble, something. It's just crazy. So I took like nothing away from this game other than I sure hope they didn't do any game plan. They just rolled out of bed and said, let's just get through this game. I didn't notice any big time major injuries, but to me it was just like, I don't know what you even take away from this performance from top to bottom.
Yeah, they're still having trouble setting that edge too. Either it's going to be the defensive end or the outside linebacker. You need to force those guys, back inside, but they just seem to be crashing down so hard on like every fake. It's just leaving the outside wide open. That happened, probably 3-4 times that game. And I know Chris Spielman, he mentioned it during the broadcast that, you can't have that. It's just, that he said, I remember it said, he goes, that should happen to you maybe 3-4 times. And, was it, Shepard's like, what, are you talking in a game? And Chris Spielman goes, no, a year. That should happen to you 3-4 times a year. And it's happened to the Lions last 2 games, like 3-4 times a game. So, yeah, that's one of those things like, it's either scheme or the guys just aren't getting it, or like they definitely need to work on that.
Yeah, Spielman had a lot of great takes, and like, there was a few players he, was doing. He's kind of giving them some good feedback, but I don't know. I'm kind of just, how all NFL fans, like I was thinking about this today, to abolish this preseason or like redo it, because I've never seen a sport where people care less about over a month of sporting events than the NFL preseason. Like it's so worthless. It's like nobody tries. Nobody wants to get injured, but to me, it's the same game that you're going to play in a few weeks. I don't know. It just seems like, why even go through these motions? If you're not going to, to me, a game and practice is to like get your team ready for the real games. And if these first 2 games are any, example of what we're going to see, like it's not going to be pretty. So I know the Lions have won 4 preseason games and then went 0-16, but I feel like even in those years we saw good and bad. We saw a few more touchdowns throughout the game. Like there hasn't been much offense, and there sure as heck hasn't been much defense. So I hate to overreact, but again, just terrible is on my sheet, and that's really all I can say. And like, I'll be curious to see. We'll talk about it as we move forward or in our next podcast, but we're gonna kind of preview up this Tampa Bay game later. And to me, I mean, I'm curious if they can make a big jump. Like if they're gonna come out and look like 180 degrees different against Tampa Bay, or if we're going to be walking out of Tampa Bay going, nope, this is the same team again for 3 weeks in a row, because this is not the team I expected right now.
Yeah, I just don't know if Matt Patricia is just playing stuff really close to the vest right now, being, under, being that Bill Belichick was his mentor, and then everybody knows that's what Bill Belichick does, and he always seems like at some point, every game will have like, all these little surprises, and they're always different, from game to game. So I don't know if Matt Patricia's trying that same thing. Like he's just running a lot of vanilla stuff right now. Like you said, even on defense, I mean, any blitzes, like you don't even see like really any zone blitzes. I don't even know if the defense will run that, but the blitzes are like, when they do it, it's not very often. It's pretty vanilla. It's just like the straight, okay, we're going to send a linebacker, we might, bring up a safety and run them. I haven't seen any cornerback blitzes or anything like that, or any zone blitzes with guys dropping. Like I don't know if they're just not putting it on tape and they're working on it. We're just not seeing it. And like I said, he's just playing his cards close to the vest, but that's even with the defense. I mean, like you said, the offense, though, I mean, they kept Jim Bob Cooter because Matt Stafford was, supposed to be comfortable with him, was the offense. I mean, there was nobody really new except the tight ends. Everybody else is, pretty much the same in those spots, except for, LeGarrette Blount and Kerryon Johnson. But once again, we all know, especially for rookie running back, it's like one of the easier spots to make the transition from college to the pros. And LeGarrette Blount's been around the NFL, long enough for him. He should be able to pick up the offense relatively quickly. But you're right. Like it seems like the offense is just very, very pedestrian out there. I mean, there's nothing, it doesn't seem like any, great matchups. And like you said, I know the main guys like Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, they're not looking to get hurt. I remember the first game against Oakland, Golden Tate took that shot to the leg and he instantaneously came out and didn't play the rest of the game. And maybe that's all it is, but that offense is just looking, very, very, it's just not looking good. But like I said, I just don't know if they're just playing stuff close to the vest and just running a bunch of vanilla stuff out there, not to get anything new on tape.
Yeah, man. This is the Kool-Aid cast, Grifka, so I can just feel how disgusted I am with these first couple weeks of preseason. Like, I can't imagine when we have a heartbreaking loss season what I'm going to do on this podcast or how I'm going to react. But to me, it's just they got to look better. They should look sharper. Like, the thing I liked the most during the game was when I interviewed Matt Pat, and he was just like, nothing. Like, they asked him what positive could you take out of the game. Well, nothing really right now. And then after the game, what kind of did you see any good things from your defense, your D line, nothing I can really pinpoint, but I'll have to watch the tape. I was like, good. This coach isn't going to give us some flowery, joke of a response. He wasn't happy with anything, and he shouldn't be. And it is on him, even though it's only preseason game 2. So I want to spin it forward and be positive because I still think this team has a lot of playmakers. To me, that's why the NFL is so stupid, because you get all these overreactions and you start thinking about your team, and then you're like, our quarterback played 1 or 2 series. Like, our skill players played less than that, some of them. Like, come Monday Night Football, they're going to be out there for 4 quarters, probably get 10 drives plus. They're going to put up points. They're going to make plays. I mean, it's just like, how in college, like, you don't hear or see anything from Michigan football, and then all of a sudden, bam, there's a real game on September 1st. That's what the NFL is like to me now. Even though they have preseason and these open practices, like, you have no idea what kind of team you have until they kick it off that first week of September in the NFL, and then by week 4 or so, you have a better feel of what the heck your team really is. But nobody really knows right now.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm not trying to overreact. But there's things there's just even little things they just need to do better. The pass protection, the opening the holes on the run. Like I said, on defense, setting the edge, getting to the quarterback. I mean, like I said, the run defense was better, and we, when they played the Giants, but the pass defense, it seemed like it took a step back. So, like I said, I just don't know if they're just doing a bunch of vanilla stuff, so nothing's on tape for teams, and they're just trying to make sure they got all the basics down before they try to incorporate all like this new stuff. So I don't know.
But here's the thing. I got two things I want to hit on real quick. One is, like, you said vanilla like a million times, and that's all I hear in the media is vanilla this, vanilla that. But it's like, I don't get it. Like, these NFL coaches, all they do is draw up. They got these thick playbooks. Like, are you telling me that if you show a corner blitz in the preseason, like, that's the only blitz you have all year, that you can't, like, tweak it, do it a little differently in the regular season? Like, I don't get it. What we're doing, or like why everyone has to be so vanilla, or so like, oh, we don't want to show anything in the preseason. Like, every week is different, as Jim Caldwell would tell you a million times every press conference. Like, I'm pretty sure these guys can draw up new blitzes, new plays to get them through a 16-game schedule. It's not like they're playing 162 games or 80 games. It's 16 weeks. I mean, get a little more creative. And to me, in the preseason is where you try out some things to see if they are going to sort of work, and then you just amp them up in the real season. You don't just not do any of them and then hope they'll work week one when you really need them. So, reply to that, but I want to hit you with one other thing first. You brought up Ricky Jean, so I got one positive with him and one beef. I'll start with the beef. Ricky Jean Francois is a heck of a great name, but what is up with all these people like saying? I guess now he told somebody it's Ricky John. I mean Tyrod Taylor, Terrrrrrrrrrible, like. I don't get why these people are nitpicking their own names. Like, it's just ridiculous to me. But Ricky Jean, as I'm going to call him, is now one of my favorite Lions after an interview today, because this guy, like, blew up the team after this preseason game, just called everybody out saying, like, it's not good enough. We ain't going to win many games when we play like this. You got to stay in your playbook. You got to be at the facility. And then today I saw another interview with him, and he's just like the most down-to-earth great leader. I don't even care what he does on the field. Like, to me, this is a guy that I hope is a coach someday, or like has the best attitude I've heard in a long time. So Ricky Jean Grifka is one of my guys now. I don't even care if he's racking up sacks or whatever. He's a heck of a leader for this team. I'm glad we have him. But talk to me a little bit about why we can't do anything in the preseason, because we'll just give away our whole secret. And what do you think about Ricky Jean?
Like you said, it seems like a lot of teams do that. But
why?
Yeah.
We don't care what they do. We want to know why.
Because it's preseason. It's a meaningless game. I mean, that's
so.
That's
So if
exactly
I run a reverse,
why.
if I run a double reverse in preseason, I've lost it for the rest of the year. It can never be run again because somebody's seen it now once. Makes no sense to me. There's like 60 plays a game, 16 weeks.
I understand what you're saying, and actually, there's that mindset that it does put it on tape where teams now have to look for it. They kind of have to at least spend a little practice time on it, but then it goes to the mindset. Like, if they've never seen it, then you bring it out, it should work. But when's the last time when's the last time you saw a trick play like really work, where it's just like double reverse, pitch back to the quarterback, and like the wide receivers like standing just wide open in the end zone, just waiting for the ball? I mean, it just doesn't seem to work that way. But seems
my point is, like, I just threw out the reverse, but like, let's say on defense, you're gonna run like a stunt on the inside with your two defensive tackles, and you have a corner screaming off the edge, trying to bring a blitz, right? You're telling me you can't show that look in the preseason? Oh, we got that on tape now. Let's be wary of that. And then week 4, you fake the double stunt, and instead of bringing your corner, you got Tavon Wilson screaming up from his strong safety spot right up the double A gap. So it's like, it's a similar concept, but it's just different. Like, I love those coaches that almost show you things as bait, and then they fake show it to you in the regular season, but it is really a whole different play. Like, to me, that's out scheming people. That's coaching. It's not like, we put it on tape. Why would you run it exactly the same again? I don't understand. Like, the only plays you should run repeatedly are those, like the power old run and some of these basic concepts. You don't run stuff like the exact same probably ever. You run it once and then you change it up.
I understand what you're saying, but like I said, I'm
getting hot right now.
Like I said, it's just the school of thought. I mean, some of it is you play close to the vest, you don't do anything like that. And I know Jeff Fisher, when he was a coach, he would always do that. He would always do all this kooky stuff, and in the preseason, like you said. So other teams have to like waste time and practice on it. They might do it, so we have to actually game plan for it. They might run this splits. They might run this fake reverse. They might do all that stuff. I mean, I guess it just depends on what the coach thinks. I mean, at this point, like I said, it's a meaningless game, and it almost kind of gets like tedious to watch after a while when the team's out there in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and the offense just looks horrible, and the defense isn't stopping anybody, and you're just like, how come they don't try this? Because the coach is like, we're not looking into that right now. We're just looking to see who the best guys are to get on the roster. I mean, it's stuff like that. So don't get me wrong, it makes the team look bad. Now, if they look terrible, next week against Tampa Bay and the same thing, and Tampa Bay goes up there and their crap offense runs up against them, and the defense can't stop them, and they can't throw any points up against that defense, then I might start to worry some more. But at this point, I guess I'm not overly concerned with it.
Yeah. Talk for a couple of minutes about, do you see any of these interviews with Ricky Jean, and like you read up on him or heard anything from him, or you just still like him because he kind of knows the scheme or whatever? Because this guy, if you haven't heard an interview, Grifka, you got to go pull one up.
Yeah, I mean, I like the one.
The stuff he was saying was tremendous.
Well, I didn't see the one that you speak of recently, the one down to earth, but I did see the one after the game, and I really liked how he did that. I mean, that's a guy who's been on winning teams. He knows he's been on winning organizations. He knows what it takes to win. And, you've always heard that from other people like, Detroit. This is a place where, guys, careers just come to end, where they're just trying to get the last few plays. And, Ricky Jean comes here, and that's not what he's looking for. He's looking to make sure this team's a winner. It does something. And it's nice that, he calls out guys and just like, you need to do this and this, we need to do this better. We need to do this better. And, we're not going to win many games. I mean, maybe it will light a fire under some of those guys like, Ashawn, who thinks that, it's my third year. I've been a starter the last couple of years. So it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe it will light a fire under those guys, for them to do better. And yeah, I'm pretty happy that he did that, because you don't see a lot of guys do that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers did it to his wide receivers, and all I heard was like, all these people complaining, should he be doing that to his wide receivers? Well, yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers. He can do what the hell he wants, man. If he wants to call out his wide receivers for running bad routes and dropping easy passes. But, Ricky Jean does it, and everybody's like, oh, great, excellent. It's just like, what's the difference? I mean, what's the difference? It's two guys that know how to win, and they're just, they're not happy with the performance that they're seeing out there. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all. I kind of wish guys would do it more, but it's always one of those things, oh, no, you handle everything internally. You don't do it through the media. Well, sometimes you need to, like, kind of spout off to the media, because it does light the fire, of some of those guys who maybe are, sloughing off or taking a little easy, or thinking they have, a starting spot or a spot on the roster in the bag. So, yeah, I'm glad he did it.
Yeah, there were a couple things that jumped out to me. I didn't really like write them down per se, but I just remember when he was talking today. I think it was today they did the interview, and he said, that when he came in the league, like certain veterans would take him under his wing, and he's like, sometimes they didn't even really say or tell me what to do; they just did it. And so I got to see, and they were like, "Hey, you got any examples?" And he was like, "Oh man, Randy Moss." And you're thinking, man, Randy Moss seems like a not that type of guy, even though like everyone said he had great study habits. He was always the first one in, last one to leave, took care of his body, always studying up plays, helping coaches. And he's like, but he didn't always like tell everybody about it. He just did it and everybody followed. So I thought that was cool. And then they were talking to him and he was like, so I'm trying to be that for these guys. And he goes, I'm here. If people need anything, I'm not trying to rush home. Like, I'm here as long as I need to be to get it right. And I was like, that's a shot right at people that are probably rushing out of there as soon as they can after practice, not putting the extra work in. So I thought that was cool. And then just overall, the impression I got from him was that he talked up Matt Pat a ton. He said, this guy is a defensive genius. He said, it's crazy to see that this is his first year as a head coach, and he's all over on the offensive side of the ball, talking to people about routes, talking to people about offensive concepts. Like he said, to me, that just shows how brilliant he is. And he's like, the coaches are doing their job. And then he said the most poignant point from his interview was, he said, we have to all do our jobs, or we have to all work together as one and not do our own thing, and we'll get this right. But if we got people out there doing their own thing or not following the scheme or not using the proper techniques, And that's when we look like we looked the last couple of games. And I thought, like, he's not calling out names, but he's saying that, hey, these coaches are coaching a new scheme and new techniques for a reason. You need to do them and then see the results, not just decide what you want to do on a third and long, because it's probably not going to end well. And I thought, they got to follow this guy's lead. And even if he's not a big playmaker per se, I think that he's going to be a great leader, even if not sometimes spoken. I think hopefully he'll put all the work in, and then everybody will just kind of follow as the season gets longer. So Ricky Jean, I mean, we've said enough, but me and it sounds like Grifka, man, we're a fan here on the Kool-Aid Cast, and we'll be repping you hopefully all year long and maybe longer if you're here with this team. So keep up the good work from a leadership perspective. That's what this team needs, no doubt about it. Grifka, you mentioned a couple things. I want to tee you up here as we're kind of finishing out the recap of this game before we close out the podcast. You talked about the offense looking terrible and the game getting boring late in the game. Talk to me about these quarterbacks. I think we hit on it a little bit before, but we've seen 2 games now from Matt Castle and Jake Rudock. Like, is this good enough as an NFL backup, or do we need to look around the league and see if we can get an upgrade? Because I'm not too excited from what I've been seeing. I mean, to me, Jake Rudock getting some late stats and late touchdowns, but to me, I haven't really enjoyed what I've seen from him. A lot of dink and dunk, and didn't seem like he could make plays. And I think that's an important position to consider. I mean, we want Stafford there all game, and if he goes out, we're pretty much done. But I think there's sometimes you can go upgrade the quarterback position if you want to get aggressive. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Watching Matt Castle play, it's actually pretty painful to watch him. I mean, that he's been around for a while, and I've never thought he was that good a quarterback. Yeah, he took over when in the Patriots when Tom Brady, had his knee injury after, and they went. I think they still went 11-5, but I think that was one of those fluky seasons where, a lot of teams had good years and they went 11-5 and missed the playoffs. And then he got some big contract, with like Kansas City or something like that. And I never thought he was that great a quarterback. And then, so even now to watch him, it's kind of painful to watch him. And for Jake Rudock just seems like a check down Charlie to me right now. It's just like, oh, okay, this guy's covered. He goes to do his reads like so fast, and like, it's just, I understand him. Maybe he's got happy feet because he's watching Matt Stafford and Castle just get overrun. But then so everything's like not there, and he's like hitting the running back, in the flat, or he's like just trying to get rid of the ball to like show that he can kind of like force it in, into a spot. But you're right. I mean, is it one of those things though? If like one of those guys, they do cut somebody come cut down day, and the Lions go pick him up. I mean, how much time is he going to have to like learn the playbook? I mean, it's like you said, if anybody else is playing besides Stafford, this team's in trouble. But it's definitely a spot I think right now watching those 2 guys. We could upgrade the backup position. I'm not saying we need to go get Sean Hill or anything like that. The greatest backup of all time, but it's a spot that could definitely be upgraded on the roster.
So, real quick, again, before we move on to this next topic, like the fans out there, again, we're a fan podcast. You just kind of hear what others are saying, what you're thinking, like, the talk of the town as far as a backup QB that might be available and is young and has some upside, Teddy Bridgewater. Would you give up anything for him? Would you consider bringing him here if he was available or no?
I've never been a huge fan of Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, is he a guy that may be able to make some plays with his feet? Maybe like a poor man's Michael Vick or something like that. Yeah, possibly. Do I think he's better than the 2 guys that we have back there? Yeah. Will the Lions probably make a trade for him? No. But is somebody, I think he's better, but I think there may be even people that are better than Teddy Bridgewater out there that may be around. I think it's just Teddy Bridgewater gets a lot of hype because he had a decent season in Minnesota, then he got hurt. But obviously, the quarterbacks in Minnesota, it seems like, there's a few quarterbacks that, Case Keenum, he had a good year, and that guy was a journeyman, so it's just, I wouldn't bring in Teddy Bridgewater, but that's me. I mean, other people, different strokes for different folks, but I mean, I think there could be better guys out there.
Yeah. My only thing with him is, he's still pretty young, and he had some pretty high pedigree coming out in the draft, and then slipped due to size and athletic testing and whatnot. But I mean, when he has played, he's been pretty accurate. I think your point is good about. The NFL is like one of those sports, where it is hard to trade, because if you don't come in the off season, it is hard to get into the scheme, get all your teammates, get up on the playbook, and get acclimated unless you play, running back, or sometimes, receiver, some of these positions where you should be able to just use your athleticism, dive in, and at least make some plays. So quarterback's a little bit of a different bird there. I'll just get your quick take on it, Grifka. He's been out of the league for a while now, but Colin Kaepernick, any interest?
None.
Just on the field, off, or both?
I think, to be honest, I mean, he's fine at what he did in San Francisco. Yeah, he led San Francisco to, a Super Bowl, but I think the sideshow that it would
just a Super Bowl, no big deal, right? We've never been there, but
right. But I think I guess, for lack of a better term, all the media attention and everything like that, I don't think that would be good for a first-year coach right now. So I wouldn't have any interest in him. I just don't think this team's in strong enough a position to be able to have to, start answering those questions. He would have to go to a more established team, something like that. If you're bringing him in just to, just for highlights, to get more people to watch and stuff like that, that's the wrong thing. But I mean, what he stands for, what he does, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about what he brings, all the media. I don't think it's not, they're not talking about his playing ability. It's focusing on something else, which is not what this team needs right now.
Yeah, I'm there with you, I guess. I mean, I think sometimes that gets blown out of proportion. We don't want to deal with distractions. We don't want to answer questions. Like, to me, if you take all that away and you just say, like, is this guy more athletic and probably has a better skill set, even being kind of out of the game for a bit, than who we have now? I'd say, yeah. I thought when he was, had that crazy year in San Fran, like, this guy has the most crazy skill set. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can run like the wind. And, he had seemed to be picking up the quarterback position. So I kind of feel bad for him, because I feel like he didn't go about it the right way. But, he was standing up for other issues than the flag per se, gets made about the flag. So I won't get on a big tangent about that. But I thought he was going more about what's happening in society and whatnot, and trying to take a stand for bigger issues. And, like, he's just been exiled by the league. And to me, the guy can still play football in the right situation, and I'm all about trying to better. Matt Pat always says, like, hey, we're looking for players that can better our positions, or somebody's out there that's better. We'll take a look at him. Like, Colin Kaepernick, no matter what he's been doing, he's better, I think, right now than what we have. And like you say, the safer move would be to find one of these third-string quarterbacks out there that gets cut that's tangibly better than what we have, and bring him in and try to groom him, type of thing. But something we got to think about a little bit. So anyway, like you say, just the reason we're talking about that is, the quarterback position is the most important position in the NFL, and I'd love to just have a little bit better depth there if possible. But the last big topic I want to bring up, Grifka, is team identity. I wrote that with a big question mark on my pad here before the podcast, and I thought, like, after 2 games, after all this off season, after going in the dress rehearsal, we're only 2.5 weeks away from the season. Like, sum up for me Grifka's team identity for the 2018 Lions as you see it, or as you hope it will be when they actually start playing real football.
Well, I know this team, they're looking to be tougher, stronger. That's one of those things that, Matt Patricia has been talking about. And, that's one of those things I keep seeing questions about. Are the Lions too tired, and that's why they look bad in games? And Patricia's just like, hey, we're football players. So I know he's trying to get this team to be tougher, but it seems like if this offense looks the way it does and the defense looks the way it does, we're gonna end up having to abandon that power running game, and it's going to be on Stafford's arm again. So I would like to see this team a lot tougher, be able to grind out the clock when they have a lead, and not have to have Stafford come back, late in the fourth every game to come back and, bring us a comeback. But I'm hoping this team is definitely physically and mentally tougher and can, ground and pound when they need to, and then, just to, flip it up and like just have, Matt Stafford air it out, when's needed, or even if the game plan, if the team's like, hey, if the opposing team is thinking like, okay, this team's really a power running game, let's really focus on that. It seems it was another thing the Patriots always did. They talk about it. It's just like, well, the Lions, you can run on them, and then, I remember the game they played in New England a few years ago. It was just like, you can run on them, and like Tom Brady just comes out and just throws the ball all over the field on them. So it's just like, this is one of those things. I'm hoping that's what he's telling them, that they really become that really tough, jam the ball down your throat, and then one game it's just like, okay, we're really gonna, we're gonna put an extra body in the box to stop the run, and Stafford comes out and just airs it out, throws for like 350 and 3 touchdowns, and because the other team's game plan was so out of whack. So I'm hoping it's one of those ground and pound games, but the coaches are wise enough to change when needed and do it on the fly, as opposed to, all of a sudden late in the fourth quarter we need to come back and we're stuck doing that again.
When I think of team identity, Grifka, to me, it's just like a couple short phrases. So the ones that come to mind for me for this team is like run game, fundamentals, and just win. Like those are the three things I want. Like I want to run the ball better, and I want to be considered a middle to hopefully, if not this year, by next year, be an upper third running team in the NFL. I want to like let Patricia do what I know he can, which is like grill them on the fundamentals and the scheme, so that we come into every week feeling like we got a chance to win this because we're fundamentally sound. We're going to be in our gaps. We're going to make tackles. We're going to not beat ourselves. And like you said, hopefully get away from that, like wait till the fourth quarter, just hopefully be really like, fundamentally sound over the next couple of years and learn how to win games from start to finish. And then my third one was just win. Like to me, Matt Patricia's a winner, man. All he's done the last 5-10 years is win football games. So like when they really kick it off in September, I just want to see him find ways to outthink, outcoach, out-scheme, motivate the players, whatever he has to do to score one more point than the other team, to help them defend so they can make the other teams score one less point and win games. I don't care how it gets done, but I think he wants to do it with run game, fundamentals, and at the end of the day, did we win the game? Did we not? And move on to the next week. So I think this team's identity is going to be in the trenches and on the fundamentals, and everything else will come from that. So that's what I'm looking for, and I just haven't seen it yet, but I think over the next couple of years that hopefully will be the team's identity in my book.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I mean, as long as they get the W on Sunday or Monday, whatever day, I mean, that's the biggest thing.
So Grifka, before we shut it down, we did not this week. We did not drop any audio clips on anybody, but we may in the future. We did not quiz you again on the Lions cheerleaders, which I hope that you've been studying. I'm sure you've been watching the videos. I mean, there's no doubt about that. We did not.
Definitely make time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your lunch break for sure. You did not. We did not spend an extra 10 minutes talking about our middle school lunchroom foods, which I know was big with the people last week. And this time you got lucky because I didn't hit you with a crazy pop quiz or a random fire, which that will be coming again soon. So you got to be on your toes. But I think we hit on a lot of good things, kind of got people up to speed on the news and notes, reviewed this terrible game 2 of the preseason. And what do you say we just come back to the people here soon with previewing this game in Tampa? To me, it's a big game. It's game 3. It's the dress rehearsal. It's on prime time. It's hopefully we'll get to see our starters quite a bit longer. And you said Tampa's terrible. I think they have a lot of playmakers. you know, I know when you don't like, I praise these other great NFL players, Grifka, but there are other good people out there other than the Lions. So we'll talk about them in the next episode. But what do you say we shut it down and we'll come back and preview that game and have some fun in our next episode?
Sounds good.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.